they secretly funneled more than $3 million to a bunch of violent, racist, extremist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, the American Nazi Party, Aryan Nation, United Klans of America, and it goes on from there.
Reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city, America missed me.
Believe me, because, it's my life, and I want to live because I want to make this country great. That's why I want to live. But when you're impactful, they go after you. When you're not impactful, they leave you alone.
Good morning, America. How are you? I am Rabbi Dave, and I will apologize up front. My voice is really wrecked today, and this will be a struggle, but we will make it through.
Good morning, America. I am Friar Rod, and my voice is just fine.
Unfortunately, his headphones are not.
No. So
neither are mine.
Setting on my computer's changed, and I got to figure that one out later.
It's so weird. This computer is driving me nuts. Nothing's working the way it's supposed to be. You may notice that I have a new microphone, or I have had a new microphone the last couple of weeks. It's not that the old microphone isn't good. It's that for some reason it just stopped working with the computer, and I've been on the email chain with the tech people, and it's just, so now I'm using a USB microphone, an Elgato, but we'll see. Not sure I really like how it sounds, but we'll get through the whole thing today.
You don't sound as warm to me.
No. Well, I'm not as warm because let's face it, I'm not a warm guy. Well, there is news this morning, and the news this morning is not, I don't know how to take this. When I broke it to my wife this morning, who had not heard, it kind of caught her not off guard, but it did sort of make her mad. And that, of course, is the shooting last night at the Washington Hilton during the White House Correspondents Dinner last night. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, no guests or dignitaries were injured or killed. I am seeing conflicting reports about the gunman, Cole Thomas Allen, 31 years of age, of Torrance, California. I have seen conflicting reports this morning, and I have not been able to chase him down as to whether he was killed or not.
I haven't seen any. The ones I've seen that he's in custody.
Right, that he was taken to a hospital for evaluation. So I'm not clear as of this morning, Sunday morning, April 26th at 8:24 Pacific time. Sorry, I don't know the answer to that question, and maybe I could have turned on the TV and watched it this morning, but you know what? I had other things to do. So
if he isn't dead, he's pretty much signed his life away.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions here. This guy, again, identified as Cole Thomas Allen. He's 31, Torrance, California, reportedly an educator with an engineering degree, and was staying at the Washington Hilton as a registered guest, armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. They recovered the long gun, shell casings at the scene, and, of course, it's still under investigation, but Janine Pirro states that evidence suggests that he was specifically targeting members of the Trump administration, which would be Trump. And, I mean, everybody was there, right? The president, the vice president, wives, cabinet members, which, of course, has led to the best meme of the day so far, which is Trump sitting at the table, and he's kind of got his head, like that, and he's looking at the people around him who are coming unglued. And it's the meme that says, first time, which comes right. I had to explain it to my wife this morning. It comes from the movie The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, where the guy gets hung and the rope breaks and he gets away. And so he's getting hung again. And you've probably seen this meme with the two guys. I don't know, maybe you haven't because Facebook kind of banned it, but they're both standing there with the nooses around their necks, and the old guy is crying. And the other guy says, what, first time? That's the line from the movie. It's kind of there. So this happened at 8:34 p.m. Eastern time last night near the main magnetometer security screening area outside the ballroom at the Washington Hilton, where the annual, quote unquote, White House Correspondents Dinner was taking place. Never been a fan of the White House Correspondents Dinner. Never see the point in it. Never. There was a time when there was a lot of coverage of this. I've never cared. I really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tradition for the presidents to go. Trump kind of did away with that. For some reason, he went to this one. I think this was the first one that he had gone to.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, this happens. It'll probably be the last one he goes to.
Probably.
I wouldn't go. This is what's going to happen. Although, you could argue that it was well handled.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you seen the video of the mashed potato guy?
No.
So everybody's on the deck because, the Secret Service has told everybody to get down. But I guess the mashed potatoes were really good. And so there's video of one guy reaching up and getting a spoonful of mashed potatoes.
That's hilarious.
That's great. But there you go.
I saw a video of reporters trying to clear the wine bottles off the table.
Why?
To take them.
Oh, to take them
with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have too. Depending on how the wine was. I mean, it was, had a pretty good margarita last night, but.
Did you?
Didn't try the wine. So at 8:34, the suspect, now that was 5:30 our time.
Mm-hmm.
At 5:30 our time, I was in the car headed to Bremerton for the event that has left my voice rocked. So, didn't hear anything. At 8:34 p.m., the attacker attempted to force his way past the security checkpoint into the ballroom. 2,600 guests. That's a big ballroom.
That is a huge ballroom.
I don't know that I've ever seen a ballroom that big. And I used to live in Washington, D.C. I guess I never went there. Included amongst the guests, of course, were the president, the vice president, cabinet members, and other dignitaries as well. Witnesses, including CNN's Wolf Blitzer, and CNN, by the way, their Wolf Blitzer, reported hearing between 5 and 8 gunshots. So, of course, the CNN headline for most of the evening was, Trump dinner interrupted.
Huh.
Blitzer was only a few feet away when the shooter opened fire. As we said, Cole Thomas Allen, he is a Californian, and he is supposedly an educator with an engineering degree. Does that mean anything? I don't know. I have no idea. No deaths were reported. One law enforcement officer, a Secret Service agent, was shot, but his bullet-resistant vest saved him. We know this primarily from the president's comments afterwards. The president was the one who told us this. He was transferred to the hospital, but he's in great shape, according to the president. And, of course, the president, the first lady, vice president were immediately rushed off the stage, evacuated, while guests took to cover under the table during the chaos, except for mashed potato guy who was still hungry, I guess. I don't know why that's funny to me, but it is.
I'm guessing Trump probably hit a McDonald's drive-thru because, they didn't get to eat.
Why would he do that when he could have it Ubered or DoorDashed, right?
True.
So maybe he did
Secret
that.
Service.
Yeah. It's, oh, well, that was a setup. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, DoorDash drivers can't just drive up to the White House and drop it in. So this isn't the movie Dave where they can sneak out and get ice cream, So according to the news I'm seeing now, the suspect was not hit by gunfire, but was tackled by agents and taken into custody, taken to Howard University Hospital for evaluation. How does that go? How you feeling? Cole?
Snap.
You feeling okay? I tell you, man, I don't know. Charges have been filed. Assault on a federal officer using a firearm during a crime of violence, expected to be arraigned on Monday. Think he's in solitary?
Yeah, probably.
And to no one's surprise, the White House Correspondent Dinner was scrapped for the night. The president, somebody named Weijia Jiang, the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Weijia Jiang, announced that the dinner will be rescheduled within the next 30 days. Yeah, I'm not going. President did hold a press conference.
Can you imagine being the catering company? You had everything prepped and everything on the table and all that stuff, and now it's I got to do it all again.
How does that contract work, by the way? Well, we didn't eat, so what do they do? Freeze it and reserve it? President held a press conference from the White House later that night, praised the Secret Service, described the shooter as a, quote, lone wolf, and used the incident to advocate for a permanent, more secure White House ballroom.
Of course.
So, what if, ... Did the president, got to do this, right?
Yeah,
Did the president pay this guy to stage this lone wolf attack to get his ballroom at the White House? Is it that far-fetched of a theory? Come on.
I don't know. I find it funny that the guy came from California, right? We're supposed to have some of the more progressive gun laws. Brought a pistol and a shotgun.
And knives.
And knives. To D.C., right?
Mm-hmm. Which also has restrictive gun control.
So, to perpetrate this crime.
Yeah, it does seem odd, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost, Rod, like gun control laws don't actually work.
Huh.
It's weird. I know.
I hadn't considered that, actually.
It's almost like only people who are going to break the law.
Yeah.
So you should give up your guns and I should give up my guns. So that
just because those wackos, yeah.
So Cole Allen Thomas from Riverside, California, Torrance, California, can't do this. Supposedly. I was joking about this idea. Could the president have paid this guy? But obviously that's a news issue these days as well. So how did I learn about this? Well, I'm sitting in a dark theater last night about 7:30 our time.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be 10:30 Eastern time. And I love my wife dearly. You know this. Okay. Mm-hmm. You know how much I love my wife. I love my wife so much that even her picture is on my lock screen on my phone. One of my favorite pictures of her. So, but one of the things she does that just drives me up a freaking wall is in the dark, she always has her phone set to 100% brightness.
Oh.
Now there's a reason why, and the reason is that her vision is more screwed up than mine in many ways. So she has to have it bright to see it. Fine. Just don't aim it at my face.
Yeah.
Which she does while we're driving in the dark or while we're lying in bed or whatever. And she falls asleep with it on. So it's like, you might as well just leave the lights on, Anyway, drives me nuts. So we're sitting in this dark theater last night and people's phones start going, bzz, 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 buzzing.
Yeah.
And the gal sitting right in front of me, but kind of offset because the seats are a little offset. So she's kind of to my right.
Mm-hmm.
And she, like me, uses her phone in her left hand because even though I'm right-handed, I need my right hand to swipe. So she whips out her phone in the middle of why we're there. I did not, but she does. She whips out her phone, and, of course, it's set to 100% brightness. And I can see everything that's on her phone. So I don't actually need to check my phone as I'm watching on her phone this whole thing unfold in Washington. It's pretty obvious that something major happened, and you don't have all the details. And because of where I was, I made some assumptions, which I know are the wrong thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know you shouldn't just assume things about people. But just the way she was looking at this, I just sort of assumed that she hated Trump, and this was some sort of dig at Trump or something. I didn't have the context of the whole thing yet. In retrospect, it may not have been that because she was just absolutely watching this. I'm like, who comes to this and watches a video of Trump sitting at a table? Who does that? Only people who have Trump derangement syndrome, right? And not realizing what had happened yet. So it could be that she was actually, concerned. But with her screen at 100%, I hate that. I absolutely hate that.
A diehard MAGA person.
She very well could have been. Given what the show was and what we were doing, certainly possible.
Okay.
Although, because of what the show was, it was certainly an older crowd. I mean, at 62, I may have been one of the younger people there.
Really?
It was that kind of thing. But there you go. It's one of those things. So anyway, I told my wife about it this morning, and she, of course, was upset because why do people keep doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we'll ever have an answer. I don't know that we'll ever get a straight answer from the gunman as to why it is. I'm sure people are digging into him today. I'm sure that by noon our time today, we will have dozens of posts and expositions about, how this guy is.
Daily Mail has like 3 articles already.
Right.
One of which is about the shooter.
And does it say anything worthwhile, or is it? You didn't actually read it. You just read the headline.
Well, I didn't read it because I just looked briefly before we started recording. So
I'm sure it's all about how, I'm sure there's a whole lot of this guy's background and how he's an educator and he's an engineer. So that doesn't necessarily make him a Trump hater, but clearly he doesn't like the guy.
He's one of 4 siblings.
Well, that's an important piece of information.
His LinkedIn describes himself as a mechanical engineer and computer scientist by degree, independent game developer by experience, teacher by birth.
So basically, he's one of those people being laid off by AI.
Probably.
No. Yeah. Could be. I don't know that we'll ever find out anything about him, and I'm not sure that I really care. He's going to go away for a while.
Oh yeah,
and
the federal government's pretty quick when it comes to trials.
Yeah, and we may never hear from this guy again, or who knows? Maybe we will. I'm not hearing a lot of condemnations of violence except from the president himself. So we'll see how people react to this as we go forward.
Yeah, we're all gun control nuts now.
Well, now they're going, see, we told you, this is why we need to have gun control. Because those people aren't going to follow the rules anyway. We'll see what happens. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
Yeah, it was kind of a joke, Rod, when I said that. Do you think the president could have paid this guy to do this so that he could stand up and say, see, this is why we need a secure ballroom at the White House?
Yeah.
I'm appalled that the ballroom has been stopped somehow or another. It's not the biggest story in the world to me, and it's not something I really care about that much. No. But as a general rule of thumb, and it's kind of jokingly I say that, but now we're at the point in things where you can't just dismiss it out of hand, can you?
No.
You can't just say, well, that would never happen. And the reason for this, of course, is the breaking news this week that the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, my first contact with the Southern Poverty Law Center was back in the 1980s. Morris Dees, the man who founded the Southern Poverty Law Center, wrote a book about dealing with racism in the United States, which is one of those topics that I've always been interested in. It's weird. I come from a very Southern-ish family. Yes, we're Oklahomans, but my family, not exactly on board with civil rights. How's that? Going back to my grandparents and great-grandparents, I'm I'm not criticizing them because none of them are here to defend themselves, but reality is that it was, I grew up in a very, at least biased place, if not. So my first contact with this was after I was in the Navy, and I saw this book by Morris Dees, The Southern Poverty Law Center. Didn't know what it was, didn't know anything about it, bought the book, read it, was interested in the topic, but I had concerns about his approach to some things. He seemed like one of those people that was, really not all that interested in reaching people as much as forcing people to see things his way. That makes sense?
Sure.
Of course, Morris Dees has long been out at the Southern Poverty Law Center because it turns out that he was, what's the word for it? Oh, yeah, a scumbag. Turned out that he was, hitting on women and spending money he shouldn't have been spending, blah, 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 blah. So he was replaced some years ago, and the Southern Poverty Law Center has continued to raise money by claiming that they are fighting, quote unquote, things. Racism, extremism, Nazism, Mothers for Libertyism. Basically, if you are right of center, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, you're on their chart somewhere.
You're a hate group.
You're a hate group of some kind. The only reason we're not on the group is because I don't know why. Sure, if they got around to us, they'd probably put us on there too. Because
probably,
yeah, that's what they do. And then they'd send out a fundraising letter saying, hey, Rabbi Dave and Friar Rod are evil, and we need $25 from you by midnight tonight, or we're not going to be able to fight them.
Hey, I'd be willing to be a paid informant by them if they want to pay me.
Hell yeah! $3 million they've spent subsidizing the groups that they were ostensibly fighting against. Now, be cautious when you read the news. 99.9% of Americans are going to read the New York Times, you're going to read Yahoo News, you're going to watch it on television. You're not going to read the indictment. Okay?
Okay.
That's a trap. That's a trap. Because the news is telling you, oh, they were just paying informants to infiltrate the groups. That's what the news is telling you.
Sure.
If you read the indictment, you're going to find out that that is not what happened.
Okay.
They were funding these organizations by paying the leaders of those groups. You don't pay the leader to infiltrate his own group.
No.
So what are you trying to do here? Well, you're trying to create an incident so that you can then turn around and raise money. And apparently they made a lot of money on this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm reading estimates as high as $87 million for this investment of $3 million. That's a pretty good return.
That is a good return.
So they pay these people to continue to do what they were going to do anyway, raise money on that by saying, oh, we're fighting them, and they got caught? Question mark? That's a story that I don't have yet, but I want that story. That story is going to be right up there with the guy in California, the Chinese guy that got caught funneling the guns and the payments to the Chinese triad gang when he was passing anti-gun legislation in the California legislature.
Yeah, what was his name again?
Oh God, Lee was his last name. Lee? Which is hardly a guess since Lee is the most common surname in the world, but yeah, he's the Secretary of State in California who was running for Secretary of State, and he was a state senator or something, got caught basically selling guns to the New Jersey mob and using the money to fund the MILFs, M-I-L-F, not what you think, in the Philippines to kidnap and ransom Chinese tourists. Anyway, long story. But the way that they got to that guy was not to that story. Shrimp Boy was involved with it. Shrimp Boy down down in San
Yeah.
Francisco. That was a great story, but it was years ago. So I have a suspicion that there's somehow, this has had to be going on for some time. Trump's only been in office for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been investigating this for a while. And it hasn't gone anywhere until the Trump DOJ got in and said, you know what, this is not good. This is, this is what is known in the colloquial phrasing.
Colloquial.
As rat fucking.
Okay.
It's
Wasn't prepared for that phrase.
No, nobody is. Or a spoiler strategy. Sorry. I'll beep it in post-production. That way it won't offend all of them. If you believe that, hold your breath. In political context.
You should beep right before it.
Yeah. In political context, this actually happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Opponents are funded by their opponents, not to support them, but to manipulate electoral outcomes. In 2022, we saw this happen. During the 2022 U.S. primaries, Democratic campaigns and PACs spent $44 million 44 million promoting right-wing Republican candidates.
Yeah.
The Democrats spent $44 million promoting right-wing candidates.
The right ones. They wanted the right ring.
And why did they do this? Right wings, yeah. The very people that the Southern Poverty Law Center was also funding, they were promoting them because they were diametrically opposed to these candidates' views, the Democrat Party was. And their goal was to ensure that the, quote, most extreme and thus presumably beatable opponent, unquote, won the primary to make the general election easier. Did that work out? Trying to remember the results of the 2022 midterms. I'm thinking it did not go well. But
it did not.
There are numerous documented cases of major parties secretly funding third-party candidates like the Green Party or Libertarians, specifically to siphon votes away from their primary rival, despite those third parties having platforms that would differentiate them from the Democrat Party. I think one of the greatest examples of this, of course, is Ross Perot. You will never convince me that Ross Perot was running for president of the United States because he was being altruistic and really thought that he could do a great job. You'll never convince me of that.
No.
Sorry. Just not. And I used to have that argument all the time with people. And unfortunately, at the time, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, at the time, I was heavily involved with the Salvation Army. In fact, I was in seminary at the time, and Ross Perot was one of our national board members. And so I was surrounded by people who were like, oh, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could get him in there? I'm like, are you stupid? Well, you can't see this? And of course, I'd just come out of the Navy, so I wasn't necessarily all that skilled at, communication with people.
Tact,
that's the best. And, of course, what we get instead is Bill Clinton. So how'd that work out for you? Not well. Now, do I know that Ross Perot was doing it on purpose? Do I know that Ross Perot was getting money from Democrats? No, I don't know that. Well, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that he wasn't. That he didn't know that he was hurting George Bush and doing that on purpose.
He knew.
Of course he knew. That's why he got back in after he got out. There are, of course, governments that do this. In the 1960s, the FBI was paying money to the KKK in what was known as the COINTELPRO program, which utilized paid informants within the Ku Klux Klan. Now, the problem is, of course, that the people that they were paying money to weren't just informants. They turned out to be the leaders of chapters or participating in the very violence that the government was supposed to prevent. which of course was the policy of the government and the law. So they would, on occasion, use those government funds that they were getting to sustain their group operations.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work out well either. Historically, the United States and other nations, let's not be hasty here. I'm not pointing the finger at the United States. I mean, Russia did this as well. The Soviets funded groups that they label as radicals or terrorists to destabilize common enemies. A classic example, of course, the Afghanistan War, the first one, Mujahideen. We gave a ton of money to the Mujahideen, weapons and everything else, and they did a great job of screwing with the Soviets for years. And we all loved them. Oh, the Mujahideen were great until they became Al-Qaeda and started shooting at us. Then it was a problem. That works. This is also known, by the way, as greenwashing. It's kind of weird. It's not necessarily an indictment, but there are perceptions in the public. And I used to run into this pretty regularly when I was on the radio. Look at the climate change issue. It's not so much now, but in the mid-2000s and into probably the last 5 years or so, major oil companies, BP, remember when BP used to run these ads about how great they were for the environment? Multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns, which when you're in the media, when you're in radio and television, that's great. Sure, we'll run your ad. Don't believe you, but
yeah,
they would tout their green initiatives, their carbon neutral goals, while their PAC, Political Action Committee, was busy donating to lobbyists and politicians who were working to deregulate environmental standards or dismantle climate-focused legislation, which, again, I'm in favor of. But there's a hypocrisy here that became obvious that these companies were doing this.
Yeah.
And now, of course, climate change has kind of gone the way. Some corporations publicly supported Black Lives Matter movement. Remember this?
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. Or LGBTQ rights, but only LGBTQ plus rights. Wait.
Plus.
MMIW LGBTQ T2SS plus something or other, right?
EIEIO.
While simultaneously, you'll support them during Pride Month, while simultaneously making significant donations to politicians who voted for legislation that advocates policies that those groups don't want. So, of course, it's June the 1st, which is coming up. You got your pride flag ready to put on your business? Because although this year might be a little different in Seattle, because from what I hear, Pride Fest is pretty much out of business here. So it's like
probably.
Nobody's showing up.
You don't have enough police to protect anybody there.
Well, there's that. But I saw a thing the other day about the theater, which, of course, heavily focuses on that community, the alphabet people, is broke. They don't have any money anymore.
Yeah.
So nobody's giving them money because they don't have to anymore. So you don't have to do that. The other problem with this, of course, is dark money scenarios. 501c4s, nonprofits, might advocate for a social welfare policy, but its primary expenditures consist of grants to other groups that promote hyper-specific interests, such as tobacco or pharmaceutical lobbying, which may directly harm public welfare. This is the tobacco industry 101. One of my favorite films, and my wife is the one who made me watch this, a film called Thank You for Smoking. You ever seen that? And it's a brilliant film, and it's about a guy who defends the tobacco industry against all the other people. He knows he's lying. He knows that he's completely FOS. But he gets paid really good money to do it. So why not? And when you get into this 501c4 element, this nonprofit element of things, that adds a whole different layer, because now we're seeing where USAID, was primarily funding 501c4s. There was a story this week about a woman who had been some kind of VP, executive director at a 501c4 funded by USAID. $272,000 a year salary. $272,000 a year. Look, I worked in the nonprofit world for 30 years. I didn't make anywhere near that. You work in nonprofits, you sort of take the approach of, well, I'm not here for the money. I made enough to live on, that's for sure. But $272,000 a year. And the gist of the story was that after USAID funding was cut, there's no more job. So she's interviewing and she's crushed by this. She's having to interview for a $19 an hour job at a fast food place or something. And how terrible this is. Like the 501c4 that you were working for was a waste of taxpayer money. That money that we gave that was supposed to go to help people. Instead, it was going to fund your salary. And I'll be the first to tell you that nonprofits, the biggest expenditure they have is for people, it's staff. That's, I guess
benefits, right?
Staff and benefits, yeah. But there's a reason for that. I mean, you can't. Somebody has to hand somebody the bag of groceries, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to pay that person to hand them the bag of the groceries. So it makes sense to some degree, but some of these salaries were just insane. We had a situation in Modesto, mid-90s, where there was a nonprofit that was supposedly handling AIDS patients. And they were writing grants for millions of dollars to serve AIDS patients. And, of course, their executive director was making $1.7 million or something like that. It was insane. And I'm embarrassed to say I knew them, but I did. It's one of those things that matter to me. But I don't know. The Southern Poverty Law case is particularly striking because it wasn't just hedging. You're not Howard Schultz giving $130,000 to a Democrat politician and $1,000 to a Republican politician to kind of hedge your bet just a little bit, in case the Republicans. You're not really doing that. This is a watchdog group that's funding the people who are doing the predatory behavior that they were getting funded to guard against. You were getting funded to stop this. You're using, by the way, this is the other part that you won't get in the news stories, but you get in the indictment, fraudulent financial structures, fraudulent companies to pay to hide the transactions from their donors. And if you're one of these people that gave money to the Southern Poverty Law Center, are you happy with what they were doing?
Well, I mean, why don't you reach out and email us at wtf@whatthefrock.org if you're listening and you've donated money to the SPLC.
Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
So, gambling.
Yeah.
State of Washington.
Kalshi.
Well, there is that. State of Washington is enacting a millionaire's tax. State of New York is trying to do the same thing, if they haven't already done it. Certainly New York City.
California has, right?
Yeah.
Or I know LA has.
Do you know how much money the state of New York makes on gambling? sports gambling. The state of New York brings in, sitting down, let's just say that $84 million, $87 million that the Southern Poverty Law Center made, chump change.
Okay.
The state of New York on gambling, legalized sports gambling, makes $12.5 billion per year. State of Washington draws in significant money, obviously not 12.5 billion, but significant money. And of course, there's an element to this. Now, look, I'm not going to tell you that I don't gamble. A couple of years ago, during the preseason of the NFL, I watched what the Broncos were doing, and I got really good odds, like minus 700 or plus 600 or whatever, for the Broncos just to make the playoffs. And I put $20 on that thinking Broncos are going to – and that was it. It was the only bet I made. Make the playoffs. Not make the playoffs with 10 wins, not make the playoffs with – none of this parlay nonsense. Make it, don't make it. Broncos made the playoffs, paid off about $200, and I was, like, really happy. That's one of my favorite pictures of myself because I'm fanning out the money at the casino. And it's like, yeah. Not only was I happy about the money, but I was obviously happy about the Broncos making the playoffs.
It's a twofer.
Right. But I'm not one of these people that goes, well, I'm going to bet on the Nuggets to win, Joe, can't say his name, the Joker to have 12 rebounds and 13 assists, the over-under on the third quarter to be 26. Yeah. This parlay nonsense is nonsense. But these gambling apps are pushing you into that. They want you to do the parlay. Because the hold on a parlay is somewhere like 12% as compared to 4% on a regular bet, what we used to call the VIG. Now they call it the hold, which is the house's cut of this. If you take one of these parlay bets, they're getting even if you win, you lose. I mean, number one, you're not going to win because it's a parlay bet. They're designed not to be won.
Yeah.
And they're making 11% of your bet on that. And then sending a whole bunch of money to the state that you live in for this. Warren Buffett just went off on this the other day, and he was just insanely mad about the fact that this is being allowed to happen. And he went into this whole thing about how gambling, particularly sports gambling and lotteries, are basically, quote, he calls it the poor man's tax, unquote. I call it taxation for the stupid, which I don't like to say because, as it turns out, I spend $10 a week on the lottery.
Yeah.
On the theory that maybe.
Yeah, you're buying a nice dream.
That's
basically
what you're buying, is a dream.
Yeah.
And I will assure you that in just the last year, at $10 a week, that's $520 a year, I'm significantly upside down on that.
Yeah.
Significantly. Like probably $500 upside down on that. And even if I do win $3, I just use that to buy the next ticket. So
pretty much.
It's a dream.
My biggest win was like $50, and I used it to buy more tickets.
Yeah. It is taxation for the stupid. Because you're basically giving these people, the state, money because the state's running this.
Yeah.
But they can't, they're making billions off this, even here in Washington, but they still need an income tax because they're spending too much money. But what upsets Warren Buffett and what he went off on was about studies are showing that people with lower incomes spend a higher percentage of their money on gambling. Which kind of makes psychological sense.
It does.
A household earning $20,000 a year, who is that, spends 3 times more on lottery tickets than one that earns $30,000 a year. The bottom half of all earners accounts for 70% of lottery spending. So, this whole idea becomes, it's number one, it's rigged because you're not going to win. As people often point out, Dave, you have a better chance of being eaten by a shark than you do of winning
being
the lottery.
Struck by lightning twice.
Right. Which is kind of cool because, as you know, I'm a big fan of sharks. So I've often said, if I get to the point where I'm just, feeble and incapable, just take me to the Monterey Bay Aquarium and dump me in the shark tank. It'll be fine. I'm cool with that.
Dude.
I don't have a problem with that. What?
Dude,
I like
so
the sharks. Maybe, but gonna die anyway, right? Might as well die happy. So, what?
This is what the Frock Noir version. Darkness defined. Shark
Just
bait.
saying that.
That's your new nickname, Shark Bait.
Okay with that. So what Buffett's upset about is that the goal of the role of the government in all of this, he sees the role of the government is to protect its citizens, and I would lean into that. Certainly protect their liberties and their freedoms. Look out for their best interests. Instead, by legalizing gambling and promoting gambling, because they do, we get Washington Lottery commercials here, which again, in the media business, yay. In the morality business, as a rabbi, not so sure. By promoting this gambling, by legalizing sports gambling, these 39 state governments that have these lotteries are acting like a house in a casino, actively profiting off the financial mistakes and the addictions of their most vulnerable citizens, just to avoid having a difficult political conversation about raising income taxes on those more able to do so. Now, look, I'm well on record as being against this Washington income tax because, by definition, it's unconstitutional in the state of Washington. Now, if you want to have the conversation about revising or amending the Constitution of the state of Washington, I'm willing to have that conversation. Clearly, our tax system here is highly regressive. We fund our government, theoretically fund, because our government isn't actually funded, through a sales tax, which varies between 9 and 11%, depending on where you are. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, except that it is regressive. If I'm paying 10% on my grocery purchases, that's not the same thing as Warren Buffett paying 10% on his grocery purchases. Even if we buy exactly the same things. Let's say we go out and spend $200 each. They're going to charge me $20 in taxes. They're going to charge him the same $20 in taxes. Well, that $20 up here for me, that's a quarter of a tank of gas now.
Yeah.
To him, what is it? And I understand that argument. I don't necessarily agree with that's the way we should do this. I'm more of a flat tax guy, but at the same time, I see the argument, and I'm willing to concede that there is a point to that. And insofar as the rich should pay their fair share goes, I'm willing to say, yes, everybody should pay a flat 15%, do away with sales tax, do away with all this other stuff, and everybody pays 15%. Okay.
No loopholes.
No loopholes, simple postcard. I made this much money, here's my tax. It's easy. No deductions, none of that stuff. I'm willing to go that far. I'm not sure that Washington State's willing to go that far, because what they want is basically what the federal government has, which is a convoluted, bizarre system where we say that if you make more money, you pay more taxes, but it doesn't actually necessarily work out that way. Now, again, 70% of the taxes are paid by 5% of the people, 3% of the people, and we get all that. But still, these are the people writing it. We go back to what we were talking about before, about lobbying. They're the people giving those people money that write those tax laws. And every time a congressman complains about a tax law, I'm like, well, you voted for it.
Yeah.
You wrote it. What's the deal? Buffett's comments struck me because primarily here in Washington. Washington's lottery in 2025 generated $940 million in total sales. Okay? But only 212 of that actually went to the general fund.
So where'd the rest go?
Nobody's talking about the rest of it. Nobody's saying, wait, where's the rest?
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that. And there's no reports, nothing going. And then, of course, we end up with a $1.6 billion, if you believe their numbers, operating shortfall, and I don't. It's closer to $4 billion. So the answer is, well, politically now, let's tax millionaires because, they'll pay that. Well, of course, then we get into, well, millionaires are going to leave. Oh, no, they're not, said the Democrats. It's Sean Smith over in Seattle. No, they're not. They won't leave. As Howard Schultz waves goodbye saying, I'm leaving.
They like it here.
I have a person I talked to last week who left the state of Washington because the state of Washington was, quote, screwed up. Now, the conversation went a little sideways because this person was trying to convince me that Jesus had something to do with it, and I wasn't buying that. But
Jesus had something to do with the state of Washington getting screwed up?
No, had to do with this person leaving the state of Washington. Jesus led them out.
Okay.
Well, no, because Jesus told you to sell everything you have and give it to the poor, right? I mean, that's in there. I saw that, right? But
he also said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. So
yeah, I mean, that has a different meaning. But he did say, sell everything you have and give it to the poor, right? But instead, you packed it all up and moved it to another state where you don't have to pay any taxes on it. See, it's there you go. I don't know. I'm back to this idea that gambling, sports gambling, and Kalshi and all these kinds of things. I miss the days when, okay, Denver is playing Kansas City this week, or Las Vegas this week, or in those days, Oakland, and we're a 10-point underdog. You want to put $5 on that? Yes or no? Now it's point spreads, points scored, all these things that are just designed to make sure that you lose. I'm here to tell you, folks, not a gambling expert. If you're betting the parlays, you are the moron that they're taking money from. You can do it if you want. It's free country. I'm not going to tell you you can't. Just like you can't tell me that I can't spend $10 a week on my lottery tickets. But if you are doing that, just like me, you're a moron. But you're a moron that's funding the government that you tell me that you hate. So how is that any different from what the Southern Poverty Law Center does? Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
So why is my voice so screwed up? I hear you cry.
Why is it, Dave?
My cousin's birthday this weekend, and we got tickets to go see a show that we just... I know this will surprise no one that's been around me for a while, but I am a huge Neil Diamond fan. I own every album that he has. I know every song that he's ever sung. I covered one of his songs on my own album.
What's your favorite Neil Diamond song?
Be Mine Tonight is my favorite, which is one that nobody knows because it's a B-side from one of his not so great albums.
Okay.
But I think it's a great song. But anyway, it's about a guy this relationship's not going anywhere, but what are you doing tonight? Kind of approach to things. So anyway, just kind of hit home when I love Neil Diamond. When I got out of basic training, December 15th, 1981, flew to New London, Connecticut. December 16th, went to the exchange for the first time as a real sailor, bought a Sony Walkman and 2 tapes. Neil Diamond's Greatest Hits, Neil Diamond's Love Songs. I can still hear them in my head, okay? So we got tickets to see Super Diamond last night.
Okay.
Which was really good. And so the reason my voice is just crap this morning is because it's a sing-along show, which is, there you go. I do have a complaint, though. I don't know who started this Sweet Caroline. Sweet Caroline.
Yeah.
There's a line that part I don't mind. It's so good. And then everybody shouts, so good, so good. I hate that. I don't know why people do that. I don't mind the da part. I do not like the so good part. Just stop it. Just stop. Stop doing that. Anyway, we had a great time. And it was, we'd gone out to dinner before and did all that. And, of course, it was at that show that this girl sitting in front of me has her phone on full bright. But it was a really good show, and I enjoyed it. And of course, they don't do any of they only do the top hits. They don't do any of course. But they are
the song that you really liked.
Yeah, they're pretty clever. Or some of the other songs I like. They didn't do anything from the later albums. Tennessee Moon is probably my favorite album by him is Tennessee Moon. There's a couple of songs in there, but one of which is Marry Me, which is Cammie and I's song. And nobody does that.
Huh?
So anyway, where was I going? I love Neil Diamond. I really do. And Neil Diamond himself apparently likes Super Diamond. He's gone to several of their shows and actually performed on stage with them. So that's like their.
So is that one of the reasons why you chose Dave Diamond?
Officially, no. Unofficially, yes. Officially, it was chosen because radio story here. So I couldn't use my real name on air at the time because I was working full time for the Salvation Army, and they were already having conniption fits about me being a columnist for the Modesto Bee.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, I wrote a throwaway line in an article, in one of my articles about the mayor. When the new mayor got elected, I went to the city council. No, it was the Super Bowl. It was the Tampa Bay Raiders Super Bowl. And I wrote a throwaway line in that article. One line. 800 words. One line. What channel is the lingerie paper for you on? That's it. And the Salvation Army had donors calling to complain. How dare he say that? Not making that up.
Interesting.
So when I'm going on the radio part-time, they don't want me on the air as me. They're like, no. So you got to come up with a radio nom de guerre, which is not unusual. Chimpo, Dave Mazzy, Matt Foley, all of those are made-up names.
Michael Savage.
All of those are made-up names. There are very few people actually using their real names. Rush Limbaugh, and even that's not his real name. It's Rush Limbaugh. There's a full name that he's not using. Sean Hannity is using his real name. Rusty Humphreys. His actual name is Ralph, but he uses Rusty. Okay, fine. It's, no biggie. So I got to come up with his name. And the name I chose, not making this up, I still have the memo, Herb Focacia. Which is great, right? Because it's actually herb focaccia bread, which they used to sell at the O'Brien's Market across the street from where I lived. But Herb is my grandfather, and it's pronounced Herb because there's an H in it. So I thought this was great. I thought this was clever. Nobody's going to figure this one out, right? I mean, they're going to be like, So, Herb Focacia. And I wouldn't point any fingers or name any names. Bill Nick said no. I don't know why. Don't really care. But we ended up settling on Dave Diamond because I was hired to do sports, baseball, Diamond.
Yeah, okay.
But really, I'm not going to lie that Neil was part of that. Okay. Which led, of course, to the two incidents with callers later on. The guy called me because I was still a columnist. I was still working for the Salvation Army, and here I am on the air. And this guy calls the show one day. He goes, I know who you really are. I'm like, and? Nope. Nobody has ever said I'm not. We've never told you. I've never gone on the air and said, my real name is Dave Diamond. We've never done that. So And? Well, you write for the Bee. Yeah,
And?
I do. I do, yes. But the better one was towards the end of my radio, the last year, they said, okay, that's it for the Dave Diamond thing, which, by the way, was supposed to be done with when I went to afternoons.
Yeah.
They were going to pull me off the air as Dave Diamond, wait 2 weeks, bring me back as Dave Bowman. That was the plan. Yeah. And then the ratings came out, and they went, oh, shit, we can't take him off the air. Anyway, so 6 years later, 7, 8 years later.
You still there was a few callers that would still call in, Dave Diamond.
Yeah, there were. But the best one was after we changed the name of the show from Afternoons Live to the Dave Bowman Show.
Yeah.
Right? It's right there, Dave Bowman. So we're like a week into the show, and Kevin, who by now is my producer, is across the window, and he's just waving his arms, because there's like 4 calls stacked up, right? Yeah. He's just waving his arms. I'm like, what? And on the talkback thing, he says, you got to take call 3, whatever. You got to take that one. I'm like, okay, so line 3, let's go. And it's this old guy who's like, man, we're a week into the Dave Bowman show. It's still the same show. Still the same guy in the same place, in the same time slot, doing the same thing. Yeah. Right? He says, I really like this new show. So, well, thank you. He says, yeah, really didn't like that Dave Diamond guy, but I really love you. And Kevin literally falls down laughing. He's just dying. I'm like, yeah, he's kind of a jerk. I didn't like him either.
Yeah.
And on that note, I am tired from having sung Neil Diamond tunes all night and not had enough coffee this morning. And I'm seriously contemplating whether or not I want to keep betting or buying lottery tickets. I'm Rabbi Dave.
I'm Friar Rod.
And this has been, well, kind of a fun episode of
What the Frock?
Your take on gambling being stacked against the average person was pretty blunt. Do you worry that kind of straight talk turns listeners off? Or is that exactly the point you're trying to drive home?
The math is what it is, and the system is designed the way it's designed. I played it myself, so I'm not standing on some high horse. But at some point, you either say it out loud or you keep pretending it's something it isn't. I'd rather just say it.
From your perspective, what was the turning point in the episode where the conversation shifted from reacting to the news into a broader discussion about systems and incentives?
For me, it was when we moved off the details of the incident and started asking why things work the way they do. It stopped being just about the news and turned into something bigger. Once you're talking about incentives, money, and benefits, you're not just reacting anymore, you're analyzing. That's where the show really lives.